The evolution of British democracy. Limited suffrage in the 19th century. At the beginning of the 19th century, Britain did not resemble the democracy we know today. Voting rights were extremely limited. Only men over the age of 21 who owned a certain amount of property were allowed to vote in elections. The Chartist movement. During the 1830s and 1840s, the Chartists campaigned for democratic reform. They demanded 6 key changes, including universal male suffrage, annual elections, and secret ballots. While their initial efforts were seen as a failure, many of these reforms were eventually adopted. Expansion of voting rights. By 1918, significant progress had been made. Voting rights were extended to include women over 30 and then to all men and women over 21 in 1928. In 1969, the voting age was reduced to 18 for both genders. The unwritten constitution. The UK's constitution is unique in that it is not written down in a single document. It is a complex set of principles, laws, and conventions that have developed over centuries. This unwritten constitution is flexible and adaptable. Constitutional institutions. The UK's governance involves several institutions, including the monarchy, Parliament, comprising the House of Commons and House of Lords, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, the judiciary, the police, the civil service, and local government. Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland have their own devolved governments with certain legislative powers. The monarchy. King Charles III is the constitutional monarch of the UK. His role is largely ceremonial. He appoints the government based on the results of democratic elections and meets regularly with the Prime Minister. The monarchy provides stability and continuity in government. The role of the House of Commons. The House of Commons is the primary legislative body and consists of elected members of Parliament, MPs. MPs represent constituencies, help create laws, scrutinise government actions, and engage in debates on national issues. The House of Lords. The House of Lords is the second chamber of Parliament, consisting of appointed and hereditary peers. It provides independent review of legislation and government actions. While it can suggest amendments, the House of Commons usually has the final say. The Speaker. The Speaker of the House of Commons is a neutral figure who ensures order during debates and represents Parliament on ceremonial occasions. Elections. General elections are held at least every 5 years, with the first-past-the-post system used to elect MPs. Parties that win the majority of constituencies usually form the government. European parliamentary elections use proportional representation. Contacting elected members. Constituents can contact their elected representatives, including MPs, Assembly members, MSPs, and MEPs, to discuss concerns or issues. Elected members often hold local surgeries, where constituents can meet with them in person. The development of British democracy has been marked by an expansion of suffrage rights, the growth of democratic institutions, and the evolution of an unwritten but adaptable constitution. These elements together form the foundation of the UK's democratic system. The development of British democracy. Democracy is a system of government where the whole adult population gets a say. This might be by direct voting or by choosing representatives to make decisions on their behalf. At the turn of the 19th century, Britain was not a democracy as we know it today. Although there were elections to select members of Parliament, MPs, only a small group of people could vote. They were men who were over 21 years of age and who owned a certain amount of property. The franchise, that is, the number of people who had the right to vote, grew over the course of the 19th century and political parties began to involve ordinary men and women as members. In the 1830s and 1840s, a group called the Chartists campaigned for reform. They wanted 6 changes. For every man to have the vote. Elections every year. For all regions to be equal in the electoral system. Secret ballots. For any man to be able to stand as an MP. For MPs to be paid. At the time, the campaign was generally seen as a failure. However, by 1918 most of these reforms had been adopted. The voting franchise was also extended to women over 30, and then in 1928 to men and women over 21. In 1969, the voting age was reduced to 18 for men and women. The British Constitution. A constitution is a set of principles by which a country is governed. It includes all of the institutions that are responsible for running the country and how their power is kept in check. The Constitution also includes laws and conventions. The British Constitution is not written down in any single document, and therefore it is described as unwritten. This is mainly because the UK, unlike America or France, has never had a revolution which led permanently to a totally new system of government. Our most important institutions have developed over hundreds of years. Some people believe that there should be a single document, but others believe an unwritten constitution allows for more flexibility and better government. Constitutional institutions. In the UK, there are several different parts of government. The main ones are the monarchy, Parliament, the House of Commons and the House of Lords, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, the Judiciary, courts, the police, the civil service, local government. In addition, there are devolved governments in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland that have the power to legislate on certain issues. The monarchy. King Charles III is the head of state of the UK. He is also the monarch or head of state for many countries in the Commonwealth. The UK has a constitutional monarchy. This means that the king or queen does not rule the country but appoints the government, which the people have chosen in a democratic election. The monarch invites the leader of the party with the largest number of MPs, or the leader of a coalition between more than one party, to become the Prime Minister. The monarch has regular meetings with the Prime Minister and can advise, warn, and encourage, but the decisions on government policies are made by the Prime Minister and Cabinet. The King has reigned since his mother's death in 2022. His eldest son, Prince Williams, the Prince of Wales, is the heir to the throne. The King has important ceremonial roles, such as the opening of the new parliamentary session each year. On this occasion the King makes a speech which summarizes the government's policies for the year ahead. All acts of Parliament are made in his name. The King represents the UK to the rest of the world. He receives foreign ambassadors and high commissioners, entertains visiting heads of state, and makes state visits overseas in support of diplomatic and economic relationships with other countries. The King has an important role in providing stability and continuity. While governments and prime ministers change regularly, the King continues as head of state. The National Anthem. God save our gracious King. Long live our noble King. God save the King. Send his victorious. Happy and glorious. Long to reign over us. God save the King. New citizens swear or affirm loyalty to the King as part of the citizenship ceremony. Oath of Allegiance. I, name, swear by Almighty God that on becoming a British citizen, I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law. Affirmation of Allegiance. I, name, do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that on becoming a British citizen, I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law. System of government. The system of government in the UK is a parliamentary democracy. The UK is divided into parliamentary constituencies. Voters in each constituency elect their Member of Parliament, MP, in a general election. All of the elected MPs form the House of Commons. Most MPs belong to a political party, and the party with the majority of MPs forms the government. If one party does not get a majority, two parties can join together to form a coalition. The House of Commons is regarded as the more important of the two chambers in Parliament because its members are democratically elected. The Prime Minister and almost all the members of the Cabinet are members of the House of Commons, MPs. MPs have a number of different responsibilities. They represent everyone in their constituency, help to create new laws, scrutinize and comment on what the government is doing, debate important national issues. The House of Lords. Members of the House of Lords, known as peers, are not elected by the people and do not represent a constituency. The role and membership of the House of Lords has changed over the last 50 years. Until 1958, all peers were hereditary, which means they inherited their title, or senior judges, or bishops of the Church of England. Since 1958, the Prime Minister has had the power to nominate peers just for their own lifetime. These are called life peers. They have usually had an important career in politics, business, law, or another profession. Life peers are appointed by the monarch on the advice of the Prime Minister. They also include people nominated by the leaders of the other main political parties or by an independent appointments commission for non-party peers. Since 1999, hereditary peers have lost the automatic right to attend the House of Lords. They now elect a few of their number to represent them in the House of Lords. The House of Lords is normally more independent of the government than the House of Commons. It can suggest amendments or propose new laws, which are then discussed by MPs. The House of Lords checks laws that have been passed by the House of Commons to ensure they are fit for purpose. It also holds the government to account to make sure that it is working in the best interests of the people. There are peers who are specialists in particular areas, and their knowledge is useful in making and checking laws. The House of Commons has powers to overrule the House of Lords, but these are not used often. Debates in the House of Commons are chaired by the Speaker. This person is the chief officer of the House of Commons. The Speaker is neutral and does not represent a political party, even though he or she is an MP, represents a constituency and deals with constituents' problems like any other MP. The Speaker is chosen by other MPs in a secret ballot. The Speaker keeps order during political debates to make sure the rules are followed. This includes making sure the opposition has a guaranteed amount of time to debate issues which it chooses. The Speaker also represents Parliament on ceremonial occasions. UK elections. MPs are elected at a general election, which is held at least every 5 years. If an MP dies or resigns, there will be a fresh election, called a by-election, in his or her constituency. MPs are elected through a system called first past the post. In each constituency, the candidate who gets the most votes is elected. The government is usually formed by the party that wins the majority of constituencies. If no party wins a majority, two parties may join together to form a coalition. European parliamentary elections. Elections for the European Parliament are also held every 5 years. Elected members are called members of the European Parliament, MEPs. Elections to the European Parliament use a system of proportional representation, where seats are allocated to each party in proportion to the total number of votes it has won. Contacting elected members. All elected members have a duty to serve and represent their constituents. You can get contact details for all your representatives and their parties from your local library and from Parliament website. MPs, Assembly members, members of the Scottish Parliament, MSPs, and MEPs are also listed in the phone book, published by BT, and in Yellow Pages. You can contact MPs by letter or telephone at their constituency office, or at their office in the House of Commons. In addition, many MPs, Assembly members, MSPs and MEPs hold regular local surgeries, where constituents can go in person to talk about issues that are of concern to them. These surgeries are often advertised in the local newspaper.